Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beneath Vancouver Radio. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're tuning in. I appreciate it. This is episode number 51. A couple weeks ago, we went past the 50th episode threshold. Big shout out to everyone who's tuning in and been supportive of that. Yeah, Shawn, let's go. little hype there. But after the 50th episode, I took a little bit of a break to kind of regroup a little bit. I know at the beginning of 2021, an episode a week was a goal of mine, and I'm very proud that I was able to do that for 2 months in a row. But I'm human. Burnout came, and other priorities came in my life as well. So sometimes it's good to kind of take a step back. And here we are, 2 weeks later, recharged, and I'm ready to pump out a couple more episodes for you. But again, huge shout out to everyone who's been tuning in, not just this year, but to my OG listeners as well since 2018. So I appreciate you very, very much. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Episode number 51. I have Shawn here, as I mentioned earlier. Shawn, how are you doing, my man?
Awesome, bro.
Awesome.
Be here.
Okay. No. I'm glad you took the time, and I appreciate it. I really do. It's an hour of your day or roughly, so I really do appreciate that. But first of all, I like the poster. Before we dive into it, Spider-Verse, one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, even though it's technically not necessarily in the same threshold as the other ones, but I love that movie a lot. If you haven't watched it already, but let's dive into it. As we start out every episode, and for those who are tuning in and are brand new listeners, this is how I start every episode, and by asking this one question to kind of get us going here and break the ice. But Shawn, who are you today?
Who am I today? Well, I guess my elevator.
You got style. You've got style. We already know that for the video listeners right now, or the video watchers.
I guess who I am today is I'm a chemical engineer in training. I'm currently working at a hydrogen startup company in Vancouver. And on the side, I'm doing a YouTube channel. So I guess that's like my alter ego right now. Been doing good. Been doing like educational content for basically aspiring chemical engineers. So I basically target my videos towards people thinking about or currently in chemical engineering, shedding a little bit of light on the industry. And that's been super fun for the last, I'd say, half a year. I really dialed in on that and been getting a lot of like positive feedback so far. So yeah, that's who I am. Chemical engineering training.
Yeah, no, I mean that's awesome, and definitely for the YouTube side of things. I mean, I remember when we were just talking about it yesterday off the podcast, but we were talking about how you and I kind of I was part of one of your videos last year, right before COVID hit, I think, or before everything shut down, like very early March. So it's crazy to think that it's already been that long. And here we are again, almost like a little bit over a year later, doing a podcast episode with you. And I wanted to kind of focus, if you will, this particular episode, because I think your niche with YouTube and kind of the content that you create is very unique. If you were to ask me, do I know any other chemical engineer YouTubers? I would be like, absolutely not, right?
I barely know.
So exactly, right. So I really think you're obviously fulfilling a market there and fulfilling an audience, which is obviously a good thing, and shows in the kind of the content, the quality of work that you're putting in. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit. And how did you decide to, kind of create these videos? Did you kind of see like no one else is doing it, I'll give it a shot? Or was it kind of like, I'll start out, if it works out, it works out. If not, then, at least I gave it a shot. But I'm sure other people are curious to how you decided to start a YouTube channel focused kind of on that.
Yeah. So I basically started my YouTube channel so in like December 2019, I put out my first video. It was like a chemi vlog. I started putting out a couple of videos, couple of vlogs, kind of dabbled into like the self-development space because that's what I was just like naturally interested in.
Right.
So I made a couple of videos about that. Oh, sorry, that's my chihuahua.
No, you're good. Dog-friendly podcast.
Yeah. So did that. Did a little bit of self-development, did a little bit of chemi. And then I'd say it took like a 4-month break because I just didn't know what I wanted to do with the channel.
Right.
And then I started putting out a couple more videos about chemi, and then I saw a little bit of traction with that. And I remember
this is during COVID.
This is yeah, during COVID was like in
Well,
March
I mean, like,
2020, and then this
mhm.
like I started taking it a little bit more seriously in September 2020.
Okay,
That's when I
gotcha.
like started putting out like a video a week.
Mhm.
Um, and then I saw like my channel went from like I think like 300 subs to like the end of December to like now it's like at 4,000.
Yeah,
Like
you've grown a lot, I've seen, yeah.
yeah, it feels really like surreal to like see that there's like 4,000 people there because yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. I
I
just noticed that like
don't think anyone does, man. I don't think anyone does.
yeah, that's my motto. It's like I'd have no idea what I'm doing. Like if anybody asks me like what's your like how are you doing this? Like I'm just like I really don't know. I think a
Mhm.
lot of luck, but also a lot of um I would say that I do put in a little bit of like, discipline to put out a video every week, or I try to. Um but yeah, I just saw that there was in self-development, this self-development space, I think that was a little bit saturated. And then I
Mhm.
noticed when I started putting out a little bit of chemi stuff, that was like an unfulfilled market niche, as you said. And like there were only like three chemi YouTubers that I knew of, and I was like, what the heck? Like I wish that when I was
Gotta be the fourth.
yeah, like I wish that when I was in first year, like some guy grabbed me by the shirt and shook me and was like, "This is what chemical engineering is, you idiot."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like,
This is what you can expect kinda thing.
yeah, and at least, you know, on one side of it, there's like people in my grad year that kind of regret, I would say, choosing chemi. But on the
Mhm.
other side of it, there's like a whole bunch of people who don't even know what it is. Like if you ask like anybody on the street what chemical engineering is, nobody will be able to tell you. Like out of 100 people, maybe one person would tell you.
Right.
So I think just seeing that I can put out this content that people in chemi can resonate with, as well as bring in a little bit of like light into the industry because it's not very popular. Um,
Mhm.
like if I can do that, like at first my goal was like to do that with at least one person, like help one person out with a video. But now that it's like kind of grown way past that, I think that I'm just gonna keep taking it forward.
Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to. Starting, planting the seeds, starting small. Like I think for a lot of people, what kind of prevents them from the not necessarily the discipline, but I guess the continuation of whatever they're doing, whether it be YouTube or writing a blog or even a podcast, for example, like myself. We always want to think big, right? I think a lot of people have different aspirations. You want to reach the masses of the people.
Mhm.
You want to be the next Joe Rogan if you've got a podcast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Get your own sponsored deal from Spotify. I was about to say Shopify, geez, from Spotify and everything like that. But I think when push comes to shove, just thinking like if you've impacted at least one life, right? Whether big impact or small impact, I think that's when like your content's actually putting in the work or it's affecting someone in a positive way, which is, as you mentioned, a really good feeling. And as you do that, you get more motivation to do more, and then that motivation hopefully turns into discipline. And as you mentioned, being able to post a video a week. I've tried it. I've failed miserably, so I can totally relate on the difficulties when it comes to that. But now I kind of switched over to a podcast a week, and obviously it's a different kind of caliber and different kind of content piece. But the overall structure is the same, right? Maintaining that discipline to make sure that you're creating the content and being consistent with it. So that's really good, and I'm really happy to hear. And I think as well for a lot of people, it really shows that you got to identify your niche. I think as well. By no means am I a YouTube expert, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about it on your end and your perspective, being involved a little bit more with the space. But it's like when you're trying to catch a lot of people, you got your very broad net. Sometimes it's very hard. So I think your example of the content that you're making is a prime indicator of how important sometimes it is to find your niche, your very, very small target audience first, building that loyal fan base and that community within them, and then from there, maybe reaching out to different kind of topics and stuff like that. So, yeah, maybe you can just share a little bit more about your experience doing that. I know you touched upon it a little bit, how you kind of said you start off with a little bit of self development, saw that it was kind of oversaturated, but um, maybe is there anything else you wanted to add when it comes to that kind of
Yeah.
niche area?
Um, Yeah, I think kind of my strategy right now is like I enjoy making these videos, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the way I'm looking at it is like I could make self-development videos, and that's like I'm equally as passionate about that as I am about
Right.
me videos. But if I want to leverage my time right now, I should put out those really specialized pieces of content that you
Mm-hmm.
can't find on YouTube. Um, like literally, if you search it up on YouTube, there's not a lot you'll see, especially from a young, fresh graduate. Um,
Yeah. Young adult.
yeah, you know, it's a unique perspective that I think is missing on YouTube. Um, and I think my plan is to take this like niche a little bit further, see where I can take it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I'm going to be talking about like just chemical engineering forever. I
Yeah.
really want to just like make videos about whatever I want, like self development. Do it, pop in a vlog here, like. And I know that right now, it like, I don't think a lot of people care about what I do. Like I put out a little bit of that stuff, but it doesn't, you know, gain as much views. Like not that I'm just doing this for views, but like
No, yeah, but it makes sense, right? You got to make decisions off the data as well, right? And you got to see what's working and what's not working, and yeah, I can relate to that to a certain extent. Like you have so much time in the day, right? And if there's
exactly.
a specific avenue that will push your content a little bit further and help you develop yourself and your channel and your personality and who you are as an individual by still helping certain people, I think that's a win-win for everyone, right? So
Yeah. In a way, it's like I'm getting to kind of fulfill that personal development by just like
mhm.
helping people improve their lives in a chemical
Yeah,
engineering way. So it's
yeah.
I don't know. That's what I tell myself when I go to sleep at night. So
No, hopefully other things as well, man. Don't get too stressed out about it. But yeah, no, I can, but I'm not a chemical engineer, nor will I ever be. But I'm sure that people out there there are people out there for sure that are very grateful that that you're putting the content out there and making their lives a little bit easier. But I guess that leads me to the next question of, and I've always asked this, I think, if I can recall, to all the YouTubers that I have kind of on the podcast,
Mhm.
but what's been kind of your favorite piece of content that you've created? Not necessarily the one that like quote unquote went viral, because I believe there is one or a couple actually that kind of blew up, if I'm not mistaken, on your end. But yeah, what's been kind of your favorite piece of, like, you sit down, you finish editing the videos and you're uploading it to YouTube and you think to yourself like, damn, that's a good video, right? Whether it does good or bad, that's a good video.
Yeah.
Hopefully the former.
Well, it's funny because when I sit down and I'm like, damn, this is gonna pop. Like this is my golden ticket right here. Like those
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
videos do not do well, and
Do
it's
not
like
do
the
well.
ones where I'm like, oh my god, like I do not want to post this. Like I posted like a day in my life video
Hmm.
where it was more like a vloggy style video, but I was like it was like the day in the life of a chemical engineer. But I just kind of ran around Vancouver and didn't really show you what I actually did. And I was like,
Was that what the one you were cycling? You were cycling in
yeah,
that one,
it was
right?
just
Yeah, yeah,
basically a tour of Vancouver, and I was like, this is
yeah.
so stupid. Like I was about to post it, and I was like, this is the dumbest. Like, but then that video at the time, like all of my videos were getting around like I'd say like 300 views, and then that
Hmm.
video within a month went
That's
to
still
like
pretty good.
10,000 or like 5,000.
Mm.
Now it's at like 20,000, and like it's just funny. All the video like there's like my top three videos, like yeah, I think my top 3 or 4 videos, all of those videos, I was like, I do not want to post this. This is so stupid. But actually, to answer your question, I think my favorite video that I made is actually the one that I did with you, the imposter
Oh,
syndrome
okay.
one. Like that one
This is not scripted, by the
is
way.
not, but the video is called like imposter syndrome. I think I renamed it to imposter syndrome in chemical engineering.
Hmm.
Um,
Tag word or keywords. Got to get the keywords in
Keywords,
there.
yeah. But it's not just about chemical engineering. It's about like basically that like that doubt you have in the back of your mind whenever you're trying something new. And
Yeah.
I related it to starting a YouTube channel, feeling stupid all the time in school. And
Hmm.
I mean, now the video didn't cover this, but now I feel like stupid like almost every day. in my job. And it's like this feeling just, I feel like everyone's
Yeah.
going through it. And I think what I was trying to say in that video was that you feel so alone in this, like with imposter syndrome all the time. But if you talk
Hmm.
to anybody around you, everyone's going through this.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I struggle even to this day, and I probably will for the foreseeable future, especially as an individual who's like working that's not even in this field of study.
Hmm.
There are definitely days where there's more doubt than others, where you're just like, what am I doing here? You think to yourself, like, how did I get here? And a lot of different things. But yeah, no, that video in particular as well, I think I actually rewatched that video not too long ago. I think last month. I was doing a little bit of YouTube stalking and going through your old videos as well, and I was like, let's see what Shawn's up to and stuff like that. So always showing my support, but yeah, that particular video, especially in the conversation or the bit of the conversation that I was in, was really emphasizing the fact that you don't know, like you really do not know sometimes what you're doing, and that's scary for sure. But as I kind of mentioned, as you were saying right now, like with your YouTube video where you didn't really know what exactly the path that you wanted, but here you are, less than 2 years later. So um, I think it's definitely the difficult part is putting yourself out there and venturing into that unknown. And you hear this all the time, the seeking discomfort, the trying different things, getting out of your comfort zone, and all that kind of stuff, and all these buzzwords when it comes to that kind of topic. But it's true, it really is, and I think you know when push comes to shove, there's no better way to learn than actually putting yourself in these vulnerable positions, right?
Hmm.
And you look back and reflect, and there's probably someone listening to this episode or other episodes in the past that are thinking of starting a podcast or thinking about starting a YouTube video, and they think to themselves like, Shawn and Aaron, they didn't know what the hell they were doing, like, and I don't, so like I just gotta go with the flow, right? And something's bound to stick. So yeah, I'll put the video that Shawn's referring to in the show notes, both in the YouTube and in the both in the YouTube on the YouTube video description, and in the show notes for the podcast videos. I highly recommend you check that out. Even though, again, as Shawn mentioned, it's not just chemical engineering related. There's a lot of good nuggets of knowledge there that you can take out of. So, and totally not just saying that because I'm in the video too. Again, this was not scripted. I did not tell Shawn to answer it like that.
Yep.
As you guys know, this is a very
minutes and 21 seconds if you just want to see Aaron.
yeah, well, he's even got the timer. Maybe we'll watch the whole video. Watch the whole video. Give him good watch time analytics. But okay, so that's your favorite video. I guess like for transparency and just for like the sake of kind of what you're doing right now. Obviously, you mentioned you're working at a startup and everything. And how's that post grad life been? I think really with the people that I've had on the podcast, besides yourself, there's only really been a couple, very few of people who are either about to graduate or have graduated in the last year. So how's that post grad life been? Working, obviously with COVID, unfortunately, still at the time of this recording. How's that transition been for you as a young adult chemical engineer?
It's a little strange, honestly. Like, working from home, it's definitely not what I expected.
Right.
But like just looking at the positives, like I've gotten to have a lot of experience already in the company. Being a part of like an engineering team, getting to see what that's like. Albeit, working from home, I still get to get my hands dirty a little bit on like actual chemical engineering stuff. Making reports, doing like different analyses, getting into the design of like a chemical plant. So
Right.
that's been super interesting. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be better if it was in person, but I think we're moving
Yeah, of
towards
course.
that. And then I think what's kept me sane is like this side hobby of having a YouTube channel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think during school, I didn't really think about what my other interests were. It was all about just like trying to graduate, doing whatever
Yeah.
I could to like land a job. And then I got a job, and I'm like, all right, what is the rest of
Well,
my
that's
time?
been accomplished.
Yeah, and it's like it's cool. Like I like what I'm doing right now, and I want to keep going with this, but I also want to explore, those other parts of me that haven't been tapped. Like
Mm-hmm.
Like if you asked me 2 years ago if like Shawn would have a YouTube channel, like I would be like, no way. Like I cannot speak. Like I cannot. Like no way. Like I'm so worried about what people think of me. Like no way. And like
Right.
seeing myself in this kind of light, I think it gives me a little bit of confidence for what I could accomplish in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think it's just stepping stones and trying to dabble my feet in different avenues of life. And yeah, I think that that's really interesting. I never would have thought that I would be sort of like a chemi YouTuber or doing all this stuff now, but yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's again a amazing example of you never know, and the beauty, I guess, without getting too philosophical, the beauty that is life. You just don't really know where it's going to take you, right? Same thing with the podcast, right? I never in my wildest dreams would I thought that I'd be, being having a podcast, be actually being consistent with it and posting it, and people actually listening to it, right? People are listening to my voice, my guest's voice, and it's like, wow, people actually care, right? So um it's really nice to obviously have that kind of reflection of just being able to see how far you've come and how much you've accomplished. Hypothetical question here, and I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball. Let's say in about a year's time, you've racked up to now 10,000 subscribers, your videos are doing well, you're doing an episode a week.
Mhm.
Would you consider kind of stepping down as full-time chem working and just kind of go with the YouTube now? I'm always curious to hear these perspectives from people.
I don't think so. I think I want to take I'm definitely like a little bit impatient sometimes, and I think about YouTube like, oh, like I'll just go all in on this and like
Yeah.
passive income, like yo, let's go.
Let's go.
But then but then on the other hand, I think about why I even started chemical engineering, and I think
Hmm.
it was to have an impact on climate change and like the world. I
Right.
think that chemical engineering gives me that avenue and those skills to make a meaningful change. Um,
Hmm.
and it's not to say that YouTube, if I went full time with YouTube, I wouldn't be making a positive impact. But I think I want to explore both of those avenues. And it's kind of nice not being tied down to necessarily one thing. Like if I was
Yeah,
just a
you have
chemical
options.
engineer, maybe, I would hate it if like that's all I was and that was all like the only thing I did. But
Hmm.
also having this avenue to like speak and like communicate with the world and share my experiences,
Right.
I think has been really valuable. So I think it comes from what I want to do with my life. And on one side, I want to have an impact on mitigating the effects of climate change. And on the other hand, I want to make cool videos that people watch and that I enjoy because no one watches my YouTube videos more than me.
Yeah, you got to be your number one fan. You got to be your own biggest fan. No, that's good, and that's a really insightful answer, I think, as well, and an honest one too. Like, right, when a lot of people, I was reading a survey or a study or whatever you want to call it, how children, the Zoomers is what they're called, Gen Z, are growing up now. It used to be before like I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Now it's like I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a Twitch streamer or TikToker or anything with to like digital media and like digital content, right? So it's always interesting, kind of, I think, for you and I are the same age, and it's kind of just like seeing we're kind of in the middle ground. We're like not full on Gen Z, but we're also not millennials. So it's kind of in that kind of awkward in between gray area.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious and to hear kind of what people would want to do. And I think, yeah, it always boils down to your why, right? Like, why did you start making these YouTube videos? It's because you wanted to impact people and share your experience and share stuff that you learned that you wish you knew when you were, yeah, as you said, in your first year, second year, early on in your degree. So um, that's always important, right? Figuring out your why, and it's something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, as my listeners know. I wanted to ask this before that, but I wanted to make sure to ask that hypothetical question first before I forget.
Mhm.
But you talked about a little bit earlier in your answer about having like more of a creative side, right? And if you would have asked younger Shawn 2 years ago, would you've had a YouTube channel, you would have said no, no way, Jose, right?
Yeah.
What's the big kind of like that experience tapping into your creative side? Because I know personally it's been it's been a roller coaster. Like, again, I never thought myself of someone who again would have a podcast or be creative in one way or another, but I'm always curious just hearing other people's journeys. And, obviously that's the main reason why we have this podcast, right? Is to dive deeper into these phases of life or paths of life where sometimes you venture into something that might be completely different than what you expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've learned a lot already. And I think for me personally, I feel this kind of invisible force, and it's kind of telling me that like there's a
It's not the
reason,
Spider-Verse.
not the spider. This invisible force is kind of like there's not a lot of engineers with YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always scared me, and it's like, oh, like what are employers going to think? What are other engineers going to think about this guy? Like, is he really dedicated to chemical engineering, or is he just like
Mm-hmm.
just doing it for the clout and all
Yeah.
that stuff? So I think on that side,
For the play button.
yeah, kind of like this dark voice chirping in the back of my head of like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? You're supposed to be an engineer. You're like, why don't you focus on your job? What are you doing with this YouTube stuff? You could be like, I don't know, learning how to code or something.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the last year is to just kind of shut that little voice up. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's what kept me from starting my YouTube channel for the longest time.
Right.
That voice was too loud, and it was
Yeah.
like, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But after I made that first video, I got a little quieter, and then I kept making those videos. I got a little bit of traction, and then now it's still there, but it's a little bit quieter, and I can make it shut up sometimes. So I
Yeah.
think that's
I got the same voice. We got to tell it to shut up.
that's been the biggest thing, honestly. I feel like that's the biggest struggle, trying to figure out how to like be the you that you want to be, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that has been my biggest struggle.
Yeah. No, for sure. And again, kind of an overlap with what we were talking about earlier in the episode about imposter syndrome. And engineers obviously are not the stigma, again, completely. I don't necessarily believe in this, but the stigma is that you guys are quiet, reserved. You do your thing, you study hard, you take like 1,000 courses on one semester, and you get good grades, right? So the YouTube channel is kind of like that curveball, right? And I share kind of like a similar concept when I was starting kind of doing my own thing with like Beneath Vancouver and all the other like extracurriculars or personal projects, whatever you want to call it. Being a kin student, right? I'm surrounded by a lot of people that are talking about, wanting to go into like pre-med or going to become like obviously a physiotherapist, occupational therapist. And then there's like Aaron there, like, is anyone interested in marketing? Like, is anyone interested in like social media? Like, guys, hello, anyone? Right. So I was definitely the oddball, so to speak, the outlier, right? I was that dot in those graphs, like on the other side of the corner. You think to yourself, like, what went wrong in this experiment?
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that. But I think, me personally, and you mentioned this, like, what do employers think? That's been actually a hidden kind of like gem, right? Being able to go into this field that I'm not necessarily, have a degree in or any, quote unquote traditional background in. A lot of the people see that as like, this guy's taking the initiative to learn it right on his own accord, try it out, experiments or not experiments, try out different experiences. Sorry. About that certain thing and about that certain field. And I think that really sets you apart from the people that, potentially are, again, quote unquote, go the traditional route or a traditional student, right? So do people at work know you YouTube? You YouTube. Jeez. You're a YouTuber. Do people at work know that?
No, they don't.
No? Okay.
I think
We'll
I
keep
would
it that way.
die.
We'll keep it that way. If anyone's listening, this is not the same Shawn. Okay. No, that sounds good.
I've kind of like my parents found it the other week, and I was like, oh no.
Oh, really? Not even your parents? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They never.
Well, I think they kind of knew because they like
Mm-hmm.
with the camera and stuff. But I would
Yeah.
always like be like, oh, like not telling you what this is about.
Yeah.
But like,
No,
yeah, like
sorry, go ahead.
now they know like the cover is blown. Like my cousins and the Philippines are freaking watching me. And yeah, I think that's definitely like taking the sting out of it a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
now I've kind of resolved in my head that if my employers do find it, it's not like I'm gonna go tell them like I have this YouTube channel. but it's not like I'm
Yeah.
doing anything wrong. And
Yeah.
that
Right.
little
It's
voice in the back of your head, if you don't like speak up sometimes and like really say it out loud, and like I actually had to like verbalize this out to myself, like you're not doing anything wrong here. Like it might be
yeah.
embarrassing, but you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And
No. It,
if you let that little thing keep talking in the back of your head, even if its logic makes absolutely no sense, if you keep it in your head, it wins. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, I agree, and it's funny that you bring up the whole like talking to the camera thing, as I'm a culprit of that for sure. Again, I don't have many YouTube videos under my belt as you, but like any other videos that I do, not necessarily for YouTube, but for other reasons,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of I've always been open with my parents, kind of about the content that I do, like oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, just because I feel like it's exciting to talk about, but it's always kind of like that's not necessarily weird, but it's always just kind of been they're starting to understand it a little bit more of like how the I guess the creative field works, right? Or in general, how YouTube works in all these different avenues and platforms. I think COVID, yeah, has definitely accelerated that. But I can definitely relate. You're just like you're hiding, or at the beginning stages, I was definitely very nervous and anxious about it. Of like my parents walking in if I'm like recording a podcast and stuff like that, or I'm doing like a. Remember the first YouTube video that I did like ever, not personally, but just like in general, was for the announcing kind of what Beneath Vancouver was, and it was like a 5-minute YouTube video recorded on my MacBook Air webcam. Looking quality is not that bad to be honest, but obviously not to 4K standards that it is today. But that video took me like almost 6 hours to record. I remember just like telling my parents to like get out of the house, just like go out for a little bit. This was pre-COVID. Just like go out for a walk or go to the mall or just something, just so I can be alone in my thoughts because I felt so anxious and nervous, like trying to film and record this video, even though I was like literally in my room. It still felt weird having them in the same household. But anyways, that's that was a couple years ago now, and it's gotten a lot better now and stuff like that. But I can definitely relate when it comes to that little voice of like, no, stop her, like this is stupid, like what are you doing, right? So it's all part of life, man. It's all part of life.
Yeah.
That's what it is. No, that's right. Okay, we're unfortunately coming near the end of our episode here. I did want to ask just one more question before we kind of wrap things up. And again, for those who have tuned into a couple of episodes before, you probably know what's coming up. But for those who are new, this is kind of how we wrap up the episodes here, and just allows the guest, in this case, wonderful Shawn, to share a little bit more insight of what he wishes his younger self knew. So, Shawn, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self, whether that's last week, a year ago, 5 years ago, no timeline, but what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Hmm.
No pressure.
Yeah, well, something that I don't know what I would tell myself 2 years ago, but even just telling myself like a couple months ago, like it's gonna
Yeah, that
be
works.
okay. Like if you just put your head down and keep working, and you might not even know where you're going, but if you keep keep yourself consistent to like the daily habits, you know,
Mm-hmm.
keep yourself consistent with something, just honestly anything interesting that you want to do with your life. um I think that for too long I've like let people's opinions dictate where I'm going to put my life towards, and I think
Mm-hmm.
even now I'm still struggling with that, but I'm seeing that life gets a lot more fun when you stop caring about
Yeah.
what other people think. And yeah, that's just honestly the biggest lesson that I could give myself, is like there's a lot you could do if you can shut up that little voice, as I said a million times. Like if you could like punch the crap out of
Give it a good old
like
1-2, like your poster in the background there.
if like people who don't have that tiny little voice in their head, like they go on to do a lot of great things, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer, and one that again I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to. And it's about being again true to yourself and understanding that there's no blueprint for any of this. There's no blueprint for life. There's no blueprint for being a YouTuber, a podcaster, etc. There's definitely ways to improve and obviously take the feedback from your audience. But at the end of the day, you're learning as you go, right? And I think that's also the most fun about it, at least for me personally. Scary, but it's also fun, just being able to kind of go through the trenches, as the saying goes, and being able to explore different things, try out different things, see what works, what doesn't work. And then from there, just being able to, again, at the end of the day, in my opinion, if you're not having fun with your content, you're not doing it right. So
Yeah.
you got to have fun with it. You got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy making it. You got to enjoy editing it. You got to enjoy the entire process, right? So that's the important part. Shawn, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to hop on. One thing that I actually also wanted to add, you mentioned about like habits and everything. Are there any resources, anything that you recommend for people who either like self-development or chemi related, either or, just any resources in general that you want to share to the listeners? Books, websites.
Books. Well, right now I'm reading The Inner Game of Work.
Ooh, sounds fun.
That's been honestly really good. Just from the first couple of like the first 4 chapters, a lot of it is about that little voice in your head and how to shut it up. And yeah, I think I do read a lot of books, like, you know, the generic self-help ones, Atomic Habits, books about stoicism and just about better living. I've always been curious about how to improve my life.
Right.
I watch people that are inspirational. You know, I binge Elon Musk content, and just anyone who's interesting, really. So,
Oh, that's good. I'll put again in the show notes that particular book that that Shawn's reading. Also put a couple that I think will help out. Atomic Habits was a good read as well. And I'm not sponsored by Audible by any means, but that's been a great way that I've been kind of keeping up with books and stuff like that. Sometimes, you know, you don't want to be staring from a screen to a book. You know, just being able to listen to it while you're going out for a walk. So again, big shout out to Shawn, everyone, for being a part of the episode, for being episode number 51. Anything else that you want to close off the episode, Shawn? Where can they find you? Where can they find your wonderful work?
if you want to check out my YouTube channel, it's Shawn Chemical Engineer. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Shawn Esquivel. Shoot me a message if you want to talk about anything.
I like that. Again, everything links wise will be down below, show description or show notes and description of the video version of the podcast. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. This was episode number 51 of Beneath Vancouver Radio. We're going to be going back to the original kind of schedule that we had in 2021 with an episode a week. I'll be a little bit more transparent as well when I'm taking a break. I know I kind of didn't, I just went MIA off the grid there. So, but we're back in action. And I'll try to be at least, again, 2 months of so that's 8 episodes, and then maybe potentially doing another break, just because, you know, as I said at the beginning of the episode, burnout does exist. So thank you again, Shawn. Any final shout outs before we head out and close it?
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. There we go. That's the quote of the year right there. That's the quote of the year. Yes. I think we all can relate to that. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. Right now, the Beneath Vancouver channel is mostly just our podcast, but when things start opening up, you can expect a variety of different content with local businesses. So thank you again. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to chat. And if you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast format, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to follow, subscribe, leave us a rating if possible. That does help with the show. And other than that, hopefully you have a wonderful day. This once again was Aaron from Beneath Vancouver Radio, and Shawn. Take care, everyone. Peace.